July 17th, 2026. Christopher Nolan brings the most famous war in history to the screen, Troy and the Adventures of Odysseus. But before you watch that film, one question: did the Trojan War actually happen? And was the wooden horse real? The answer is far more complicated than you think, and far more interesting. For thousands of years, Troy was only a legend, a city that lived in Homer's poetry. Nobody believed it was real. But in 1868, a German businessman stunned the entire world. His name, Heinrich Schliemann. He had memorized Homer's poems as a child, and for his entire life, he had one dream: to find Troy. He made a fortune in trade and spent that fortune on his dream. In 1870, on a hillside in northwestern Turkey called Hisarlik, he began to dig, and he found it. The city was real. But in this discovery, the most devastating irony was hiding. While digging, Schliemann found a massive gold treasure. He shouted, "Priam's treasure, the king of Troy." And the whole world looked at him. But later research showed this treasure belonged to a completely different civilization, 1,250 years before the Trojan War. In other words, the gold jewelry of people who lived 1,000 years before Priam and Helen. The real Troy was several layers higher up, and Schliemann, in his rush, had dug right through those layers and destroyed them. Classical scholars joke about it. Schliemann accomplished what the Greeks could not. He finally leveled the walls of Troy. He found what he was looking for, but in finding it, he destroyed it. But Troy did suffer a real war. Archaeologists found at least 9 layers of cities at Hisarlik, built one on top of the other, each one on the ruins of the last. And the layer called Troy 6, dating to around 1180 BC, suffered a catastrophic fire. This aligns with the traditional period of the Trojan War. And in 2025, archaeologists found something new. In front of the palace structure, sling stones dating 3,200 to 3,600 years old, arrowheads, burned buildings, human skeletons buried in haste. This was not gradual decline. These were the unmistakable signs of a sudden, brutal attack. Troy was attacked. This is now almost certain. But why did this war happen? Homer says, Helen, a beautiful woman, wife of the Spartan king Menelaus, Trojan Prince Paris took her, and this started a 10-year war. But modern historians think differently. Troy was strategically located near the Dardanelles Strait. At that time, the only passage to the Black Sea ran through here. Trade routes, wealth. Whoever controlled Troy controlled who traded where. Perhaps this was the real reason for the war, not Helen, trade and power. But this too remains unproven. So the real cause of the Trojan War is still a mystery. And the most famous question, the wooden horse. Homer writes, the Greeks built an enormous wooden horse. Soldiers hid inside. The Trojans brought it into the city thinking it was a gift. At night, the soldiers came out and opened the city from within. Is this true? No archaeological evidence has ever been found, but researchers say something fascinating. The wooden horse may have been a poetic symbol for betrayal or espionage. In other words, someone was already inside and opened the city from within. But who? Nobody knows. Homer took this mystery and turned it into poetry. And for 3,000 years, everyone has believed that poetry is fact. Troy was real. A war happened. This is now almost certain. The wooden horse, probably a symbol. The real cause, probably trade and power. But Homer turned this story into poetry, and the poetry outlived the truth. Now, after Nolan's film, people around the world are asking the same question. Was Troy real? And the answer was waiting here all along. The real Troy is even more fascinating than any film, because the real Troy is still full of secrets hidden underground. And every year, new excavations raise new questions. Troy has never been fully uncovered, and perhaps it never will be. Troy, real, destroyed, and still full of secrets. 3,000 years later, we are still asking the same questions Homer asked. Was it love? Was it power? Was it fate? Perhaps all three. Perhaps none of them. But one thing is certain, the story of Troy will never end. If the story of Troy fascinated you, the full adventure of what happened after the war is already on this channel. After the war, Odysseus spent 10 years trying to get home. The Cyclops, the sorceress, the world of the dead, the sirens, it's all there, split into 4 episodes. Start from episode 1. The link is in the description below. And if this story made you think, subscribe, because next time we go even deeper.